We had just sold our house. It was a hard decision, but we were ready for a new start. The house we were moving into was beautiful. A 2,500 square foot brick house with big rooms, tall ceilings, and charm. It had a warm red brick outside and white shutters. It looked perfect. The house was being sold by a church just a few doors down. The church got the house after an older couple who used to live there passed away. The man died in the house. The wife had dementia and went to live in a care home. They had no children, so they left the house to the church. We were pre-approved for the mortgage, but the church lawyer messed up the paperwork. Because of that, we couldn't close on the house in time. But we had already sold our old house. We had no choice. The church said we could move in before the official closing. So we packed everything up and got ready to start our new life. The day before we moved in, I had to leave town to help my mother in Massachusetts. That left my husband, our daughter, his sister, her kids, and his brother to do the moving. They worked hard and finally got everything to the new house. My husband, his sister, and brother left the 4 girls, our nieces ages 8 to 16, at the house to unpack while they went back for another load. The girls were unpacking my daughter's bedroom when they found a Polly Pocket toy set. They sat down to play with it. Suddenly, the blinds on the windows started going up and down by themselves. There was no one near them, no strings being pulled, just the blinds, moving up and down again and again. The girls screamed and ran downstairs. When the adults came back, the blinds were still moving. My husband didn't believe in ghosts or spirits, so he just laughed it off. Old house, he said. Probably just some weird wiring or something. That night, everyone left. It was just my husband and our 2 daughters in the house. The girls were scared, but eventually fell asleep. My husband, not believing in anything supernatural, tried to go to bed. But as he lay in bed, he felt something strange. It was like someone was watching him. He couldn't see anything, but the feeling was strong. He kept turning around, checking corners, opening the closet. Nothing. But the feeling wouldn't stop. After about an hour, he got up and moved to the living room. He started moving the furniture, pushing the couch, chairs, even the coffee table, into a tight circle around himself, like in the old days when people would circle the wagons for protection. Then he lay down in the middle and turned on the TV. At 1 a.m., he called me. He never calls that late. "I can't sleep," he whispered. "Something is in this house. I can feel it." This happened every night. A few days later, I came home. Right away, I felt it too. The air was thick. It was hard to breathe, especially in the basement. Every step I took, I felt eyes on me, watching, waiting. I tried to tell myself I was just tired, but it didn't help. I couldn't get anything done. Unpacking felt impossible. I couldn't concentrate. Our baby son, who had always been happy and calm, became restless. He cried all day. He clung to me like never before. The house was playing tricks on us. Things disappeared. Items moved from one room to another. We would hear footsteps upstairs when no one was up there. Doors would open on their own. One day, the kitchen door, a heavy door that needed a strong push, swung wide open while I stood on the other side. There was no wind, no one nearby, just me, staring at the open doorway. Still, I tried to stay strong. I called a priest to bless the house, but no one could come on short notice. Days passed, then weeks. Things only got worse. And then came the doorbell. It started ringing at exactly 3 a.m. every night. We would get up, go to the door, open it. No one there. Shut the door. walk away. Ding dong. The doorbell would ring again. Over and over. We changed the batteries. We disconnected it. We even removed the button completely. But it kept ringing. That was the end. I couldn't take it anymore. We called the church and told them we were pulling out of the deal. We packed up what we could and moved. That night, the first night away from that house, I slept better than I had in months. We never looked back. About 9 months later, a new couple bought the house. It was strange. They started adding rooms, knocking down walls, building things that didn't match the rest of the house. For the past 14 years, that house has been under construction, still not finished. It reminds me of the Winchester Mystery House, where the owner believed ghosts would leave her alone if she never stopped building. That house, too, was always changing, always growing, never at rest. Sometimes I wonder what's buried under that house. Was it an Indian burial ground? A place of old rituals? Maybe a portal? Something evil, dark, and hungry? I don't know. But I do know this. Something lives there. Something that doesn't want people staying for long. That was just one story. But I promised you 3. Let me tell you the second. My cousin Maria lived in a small house in the woods, quiet, peaceful, until her son Ben started talking to someone who wasn't there. He was 5. At first, it was harmless. He talked about his friend, a man who sat by his bed and told him stories. She thought it was imaginary. Most kids have one. Then things changed. Ben became afraid to go to sleep. He said the man would get mad if he didn't listen. One night, Maria heard whispering on the baby monitor. Not Ben's voice. A deep, cold voice, saying things she couldn't understand. She rushed to his room. No one was there. Ben was crying, pointing to the corner. "He's there," he said. "He's mad at you now." They moved out the next week, left everything behind. They still don't talk about what happened there. And the third story? That one happened to a friend of mine, James. James rented a cabin up in the mountains. No neighbors, just trees and silence. He went there to write. One night, he heard knocking on the window, slow, rhythmic. He looked out. Nothing. No wind, no animals, just darkness. It happened every night, always at 2:17 a.m. He set up cameras, motion sensors, but nothing was ever recorded. One morning, he woke up with dirt on his floor. Pine needles, as if someone or something had walked in from the woods. He left the cabin that day. Later, he found out a man had gone missing near that area 5 years earlier. They never found his body. Sometimes, I wonder if whatever was in our house is the same kind of thing. Something lost, something angry, something old. I don't believe these are just stories anymore. Not after what we went through. The shadows have secrets. Some of them are better left alone. The Haunted Hospital. In the year 2000, there was a 19-year-old girl named Emma. She lived in a small city in America with her mother. Emma loved her mother very much. They were very close, and they took care of each other. One day, her mother started feeling pain in her stomach. At first, they thought it was something small, maybe something she ate. Emma gave her mother some pain medicine, but the pain kept getting worse. Her mother said, "Emma, I can't bear this anymore. Please take me to the hospital." Emma quickly grabbed her bag and helped her mother get ready. She called a taxi, and they went to the nearest hospital. But this hospital was not just any hospital. It was 400 years old. People in the city called it the Haunted Hospital. Many strange things had happened there before, and people said it was full of ghosts. But Emma didn't believe in ghosts. She only wanted to help her. The hospital building was very old. The walls were cracked and the lights were dim. But inside it was clean, and the doctors were very experienced. They welcomed Emma and her mother and took her mother to do some tests. After some time, the doctors gave her mother some medicines and told Emma, "She needs to rest here for 2 days. We will take care of her." Emma stayed with her mother in the hospital room. It was a quiet evening. The wind outside was cold and the hospital halls were empty. Emma's mother was feeling worse. She started vomiting and said her stomach still hurt a lot. The nurses gave her a sleeping pill so she could sleep peacefully through the night. Emma sat beside her mother's bed. She looked at her mother, who was now asleep. Emma was tired too, so she decided to rest for a while. She lay down on the extra bed next to her mother. The room was cold and quiet. Only the sound of the clock ticking could be heard. Slowly, Emma closed her eyes. Suddenly, at midnight, Emma woke up. She heard something strange. There was a soft knocking sound coming from the corridor. It sounded like someone was knocking on the door. Emma thought maybe it was a doctor or a nurse checking on her mother. She got up and said, "Wait a minute," and went to open the door. But when she opened the door, no one was there. The corridor was completely empty and dark. Only the old light on the ceiling was flickering. Emma looked around, but didn't see anyone. She thought maybe someone had walked away, so she closed the door and locked it. She went back to bed and tried to sleep again. But after a few minutes, she heard the same knocking sound again. This time it was louder. Her heart started beating fast. She didn't want to open the door again, but the sound didn't stop. Carefully, she walked to the door and opened it again. Just like before, no one was there. Emma was now scared. She walked quickly down the hallway to look for a doctor or any hospital. But when she reached the ground floor, it was empty. The reception area had no one. No nurses, no doctors, nothing. Only silence. The lights were very dim, and the whole place felt cold. Suddenly, she heard a whisper behind her. "Emma, Emma." Her eyes opened wide in fear. She looked around, but saw nothing. The voice sounded soft, but clear. She didn't wait to hear it again. She ran back to her room as fast as she could. But when she reached the door, it was locked from the inside. She knocked hard and shouted, "Mom! Mom! Please open the door." But her mother had taken sleeping pills. Emma knew she would be in deep sleep. She cried and banged on the door again. "Mom, please open the door." After a minute, she heard the sound of a toilet flush. Then the door opened. Her mother stood there, looking sleepy and calm. She said, "Hey, Emma, why are you crying? Did you get something to eat?" Emma was shocked. "What? No, I didn't go anywhere." Her mother looked confused and said, "You told me you were going to the canteen to buy food." Emma's hands began to shake. "No, Mom, I didn't say that. I never went to the canteen." But she didn't want to scare her mother. Her mother looked tired, but was standing and talking normally. Emma took a deep breath and said, "The canteen was closed." Her mother nodded and lay back down. Emma helped her into bed and locked the door again. She didn't want to think about what just happened. She lay beside her mother and tried to sleep, but the room felt strange now. Cold wind moved through the closed windows. The walls seemed darker than before. She closed her eyes but couldn't sleep. A few minutes later, she felt something touch her leg. She opened her eyes and looked down. Nothing was there. She slowly pulled the blanket over herself. She closed her eyes again, trying not to think about anything. Then she heard a whisper again, this time very close to her ear. "Emma, don't go." She sat up quickly and looked around. Her mother was still asleep. The room was empty, but Emma could feel someone's presence, like someone was watching her. She didn't move. She didn't speak. She stayed frozen in fear. The rest of the night was long. Every minute felt like an hour. Emma kept looking at the clock, waiting for the sun to rise. She didn't hear any more voices, but the fear stayed with her. When morning came, the sunlight entered through the window. Everything looked normal again. Doctors came to check her mother. They said she was feeling better and could go home soon. Emma didn't say anything about what happened at night. She just nodded and packed her things. When her mother was discharged, they left the hospital and never looked back. Emma never told anyone what she saw or heard that night. She tried to forget it, but sometimes at night, when the room is quiet and dark, she still hears a soft knock on the door, or a voice whispering her name. No one knows what happened in that hospital. Some say it's just an old building with creaky floors and broken pipes. Others believe something else lives there, something that waits in the shadows. Emma only knows one thing. She will never go back there again. The scariest thing that ever happened to me took place when I was just 13 years old. I still remember every moment clearly, even now. It's something that has stayed with me, burned into my memory like a shadow that never leaves. The house I grew up in was always strange. It sat in the middle of nowhere in southern New England, surrounded by woods and quiet roads. From the outside, it looked like a normal old home, but anyone who lived there knew the truth. It wasn't just an old house, it was haunted. My whole family had weird experiences in that place. Things would move when no one was around. We would hear footsteps at night, whispering voices with no source, and cold spots that would suddenly appear. Lights flickered even when the wiring had been checked, but nothing was as terrifying as what happened to me that one night. It was late. My mom was working her overnight shift, and my grandmother was sleeping downstairs. Her room was right at the bottom of the stairs. My room was upstairs, far from her, and I was alone up there, except for our dog who was sleeping in the hallway. I was in my room, sitting at my desk, using my computer. The TV across the room was on, playing quietly, and I had left the light on in my turtle's tank. I even remember apologizing in my head to Saber, my turtle, because I had forgotten to turn it off. Suddenly, everything changed. Without any warning, all the lights went off at once. The computer screen went black, the TV shut off, the light from the turtle tank disappeared. I was left in total darkness, with only the moonlight coming in through the window. That's when I heard it. To my right, just inches away from me, something moved. It wasn't a loud noise. It was small, soft, like something had fallen and then slid across the surface of my bureau. I froze. I couldn't move a muscle. My body went stiff with fear. I couldn't even breathe properly. I just sat there paralyzed, staring straight ahead, too afraid to look toward the sound. The mirror above my bureau had always made me uncomfortable. It was old, with dark corners and weird marks on the glass. My grandparents had found it in the attic when they bought the house in the 1950s. No one ever remembered buying it or bringing it in. It was just there. We kept it because it seemed like a nice antique, but I always had a bad feeling about it. And now something had moved right beneath it. A few seconds passed, and then the TV turned back on by itself. But there was no show playing. Only loud, harsh static filled the screen and the room. That awful white noise blasted through the silence like a scream. At the same time, the turtle tank light flicked back on, and the computer started making strange clicking noises, like it was struggling to turn itself back on. That was when I finally dared to move. I started by shifting my eyes to the right. Then, slowly, I turned my head just enough to see the bureau. A small perfume bottle I kept there had fallen over. It had rolled across the surface and stopped right at the edge. It was lined up perfectly with my temple. If it had fallen just a little further, it might have hit me in the head. That tiny thing was enough to break my frozen fear. I screamed louder than I ever had in my life. I jumped out of the chair and ran. I didn't even stop to open the baby gate at the top of the stairs. I leapt right over it and flew down the steps. My dog barked and chased after me as I threw open the door to my grandma's room. She sat up, confused and scared. I ran into her arms, crying and shaking. She held me tight, trying to calm me down, but I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't even explain what had happened right away. All I could do was hold on to her and hope that the sun would come up soon. I didn't sleep that night. I don't even remember closing my eyes. My grandma stayed awake with me, talking softly and telling me it would be okay. But I didn't feel okay. The house felt different after that, like something had woken up. For weeks after that night, I refused to go upstairs alone. Even during the day, I avoided my room. I begged to sleep downstairs on the couch or with my grandma. The feeling of fear was always there now, hanging over me like a shadow. I never felt alone in that room again, even when no one else was around. Things got worse before they got better. My grandma said she started hearing footsteps in the hallway at night. My mom, too, would come home from work and hear whispering voices upstairs when no one was there. Our dog would bark at corners and refuse to go near the mirror.
If you like the video, please give it a like, leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also hit the bell icon so you never miss an update.